Hello, everyone. This is Rob Golfi with REMAX, the Golfi team. Welcome to the Golfi Real Estate Show with host Stephanie Vivier.
Well, howdy, Rob. How have you been this week?
Been pretty good. You know, we had some weather that's been pretty hot days, and we had some cold days, but it's been pretty good. And the market is moving along, and the election happened. We'll talk about that. Everything's good. And I think a lot of people now are, I'm finding that things have picked up in calls and sales and stuff like that. And so things are moving along. I find a lot of retirees are calling right now. People are
Really?
Yeah, they're getting accepted in their retirement homes, and they have to make a quick move because it's one of those things. They say, "Hey, we got a spot now. Next month it's yours," and it's like they don't give them much notice because I guess when somebody moves out or passes away, they have a spot available, and they don't like to see a month empty, so they clean it up for the new person that's supposed to get in there. And then so whoever, if they live in a house and they own a house, they need to get it sold fairly quick, and sometimes some of them, they're remembering the prices from 2022. They don't realize 3 years have passed by. So it's sometimes time flies when when you're older, and I can contest to that. It does fly by. So
it does. It really goes by so fast. So for those people, that age group, are you talking about houses that they've been in for years and years and years? They bought for like $100 in a butterscotch candy, or are they coming from houses they bought a few years ago?
Yeah, absolutely. No, people that bought years and years ago and are selling now. These are people that probably bought their houses somewhere between I would say between $15,000 to $25,000. Like way back. We're talking 40, 50 years ago, maybe even more. Yeah, like even 60 years ago. And they've been there ever since. That generation now, it's a big population, and they're starting to sell right now. And and now the new millennials and Gen X are moving into these houses and giving a new paint job and everything. A lot of these houses have some great upgrades, like I don't understand why when you have a 70 or 75-year-old person putting on a steel roof on a house, it's like not saying that they're not going to live for another 50 years, but I mean, like, chances are they're only going to be there another 10 to 20 years the most, and they're putting on a very expensive roof on their house that like they could just put a 25 or 30-year shingle that'll cost half as much. And I guess they just got money and they just want to put some like a good shingle or steel roof or whatever on their houses. And it's amazing how some people are putting a lot of money in their houses as they're elderly, and then they move out within 5 years later. And I just find it's just, so the next buyer that buys it, and it'll be probably the next 5 buyers that buy that house will never have to do anything to the roof line. And sometimes they put new windows in, sometimes updated kitchens and baths, new flooring. They're putting good quality stuff in. So if you can find a senior that has done these upgrades, when you go in, like I'm telling you, like you don't have to worry about anything. Like right now I'm looking at one in St. Catharines. They got a beautiful sunroom, 4-season sunroom. So a sunroom with an addition is on there on a bungalow. It's perfect. And great home for some young person to go in. And it's also got an in-law set up downstairs. You can't get any better than that. So we're seeing if that is going to hit the market soon. And that's what's happening out there. A lot of good quality old bungalows, especially because that's where mostly were built in the 50s, 60s, and the 70s. And then when the land started becoming they started making the lots a little smaller. They started building the 2-stories, a lot of 2-stories.
It's interesting you mentioned that age group, Rob. I remember when we were shopping for the home we're in now, it was, sort of that age range, just one house that we went to. And they had just put all new windows in for the sale. Like there's this, I think maybe like an integrity that generation has, that they really want to leave a house in good condition for who's coming next. I don't know that you have that. Maybe it is because they had that opportunity to buy a house and to afford it. It's a different generation coming in now. So kind of nice, a good deal for folks if they can get it, if you finding those moves coming up.
Absolutely. They, when they're doing stuff, they want quality. They don't want to be known that they put garbage in the house for the next person, even though they're not even thinking of selling. And actually a lot of them think their kids will take over, and so that's why they sometimes maybe spend a little more money than they need to. I mean, everybody has a different reason, but sometimes people just want that better. And who knows? Maybe the salesperson sold them, and they ended up buying it and buying on that salesman. So I think seniors should just be very careful of you don't have to go overboard on your quality on what you're putting in. A 30-year shingle is good enough. That'll last probably, I'd say, 2-3 families that move in and out of that house. Because usually the average move, like the average young person moves every 5 to 7 years. So like the seniors, they stay, like they moved in 50, 60, even 40 years ago, and they stayed. That's it. They're not moving. But now the younger population, they're moving, every 5 to 7 years, and so they're constantly going, they're upgrading and going bigger or whatever it is. So yeah, like, I mean, if you see a bungalow for sale, I mean, a lot of times there's a lot of good quality in there, and maybe and a lot of times there isn't. You walk in there and it's still the same as from 1960, 1970. And the reason why it's still good, like I've gone in houses, and that blue and pink tile that's in the bathroom, if you ever seen it. And
oh yeah, we all know that one.
That blue and pink tile, same thing with the toilet and the sink and everything else like that, and the bathtub. I'll tell you, I always push the walls around the tub to see how strong they are and how solid. I'm telling you, these tiles that they put 50 plus years ago, it's like they just laid it. It's solid. And I'm telling you, like, sometimes it's not even worth changing the tile. I probably would get a guy to go in and glaze it. If you want white tile, glaze it white, because it's solid. I mean, it's been there for 50, 60 years, and it's not going to go anywhere for another 50, 60 years, because when they did the job back then, they did it right. Today, I mean, like tiles, tiles are always the way to go. If it's done right, it'll last a long time. But a lot of times, I walked into a house. The house was only 10 years old. You could see it was, a little mushy along the bottom where the tub met the tile. And I'm like, what's going on? Like, you know what I mean? Like, but there's some good quality homes built way back then, and the bones are good, and the bones of those old houses are good, and I like old houses. To me, that's I live in an older house. I lived in an older house. Of all the houses that I moved into, I moved into 2 out of the probably 5 homes were kind of newer. And but I lived in century homes, bungalows that were built in the 50s, late 50s, century homes that what else? All sorts of older homes I lived in, and I like them. The bones, they're strong. You're not going to hear people walking by on the sidewalk, and you're not going to hear them talking. But a lot of these new homes, I mean, you're thinking they're right outside your window talking, and they're just across the street on the sidewalk. So they're not making them as strong and heavy as they used to. And you know what? And I'll tell you, I remember when Brampton was just starting to grow. So my parents, my mom's aunt and uncle, and their kids were moving in, and they were older aunt and uncle, and they had kids later in life. So the kids were more like our age. So when we went there, we would stay overnight, maybe 1 or 2 nights, and I couldn't believe it. Like when from their old house that they had in Port Credit, they moved to Brampton. When we went there, we slept over in Port Credit, perfect, quiet, nothing, no noise. In Brampton, in the middle of the night, you could hear somebody down the street, like, drive in, and it wasn't a hot rod car either. It was just like slam the door, talking, and I'm like, what the heck? I wasn't used to it. I was not used to it as a kid because I grew up in a 3-bedroom brick bungalow in Niagara Falls, and you really didn't hear anything outside unless you had your windows open. So, but yeah, definitely as time went on, houses ended up getting less and less quality, especially with the siding. And who knows what's going to happen in 10, 20 years from now. I don't think we're going to see too many houses with a lot, like a fully bricked house. It's because there's hardly any bricklayers around. They're a dying breed. We have to find bricklayers that are willing and wanting to be bricklayers, and if they are, I mean, they're going to do well in the construction industry if somebody wanted to become a bricklayer.
Well, there's that, I think, and also, a push to get more houses built that we're talking about prefab houses, right? So different ways of construction, and certainly you're not going to have brick on those homes.
Right. Talking about pre-construction, just a quick note. So the pre-construction, like new builds, is at 20%. So we're closer to zero than we are at. So we're not doing too good on the new builds right now, not the new builds, but we got stats here. And just to give you an idea, the numbers, again, because of the amalgamation of the Toronto area going into Niagara, the numbers are going to be construed a little bit. But in St. Catharines, the unit numbers from April of last year versus April of this year, it's down 35% in unit sales. But from April last year to April this year in price, it's down 2.5% in St. Catharines. This is benchmark price. So, and then if I go to Niagara Falls, unit sales in Niagara Falls down from April 2024 versus April 2024, down 30% in unit sales. And then price down 13% from April last year versus April this year. It's amazing. I can't believe it. I never experienced this market before. Never. And I think people are comparing this to the 90s. From 1990 to 1997, 98, this seems like it's a repeat of itself.
And so what do you do? Yeah. And what do you do, Robin, in a market like this? You have so much experience, but like you said, this is something new for you. So how do you tackle it?
Well, you know what? Markets like this, for us, we're outpacing the real estate board, just because we have a strong brand in the marketplace, and because of our marketing and because everything we do better than the average team and average person. Now, people call us, especially when things have to get sold, because they know we have the exposure. That's from just years of build-up reputation and everything else. But sometimes if you're a newer agent, it is a tough grind out there to make it. It is a tough grind. So the newer agents, if they can make it in this market, they'll be able to make it in any market. They'll be able to do that. But in Welland, unit sales are down from April last year versus April this year, 36%. Now, but look at this. From April of last year to April of this year, benchmark price is up 3.8% in Welland, only in Welland. So Welland probably had a big drop at one time. Now, Hamilton, I got Hamilton and Burlington here. So Hamilton's down 19% in unit sales, not as much as the 30% in Niagara. And then also it's down 3.8% in benchmark price. From April last year versus this year. And the last one I'm going to give you right now is Burlington. Burlington, I'm telling you, the high-end markets take the biggest beatings. And they take the beatings like you would not believe. And I didn't bring Niagara-on-the-Lake because Niagara-on-the-Lake is always up and down every month. But Niagara-on-the-Lake is down back up. Burlington is down 43% in unit sales from April last year versus this year. It's incredible. So, and that could be off a little bit, but just because of the amalgamation of the different real estate board. But it's only down 3.46% in benchmark price from last year to this year. But they did go through from June of last year right till February of this year. Sales were benchmark price was under $1 million in Burlington for all those months. But now it's actually climbed up over $1 million. So that's what's happening in the real estate world in unit sales and benchmark price. So things are moving along slowly but surely. We're just chugging along.
All right. Lots to know. Thank you so much for that, Rob. You're always great at bringing us up to date, the minute to minute, what's happening in the market. The one question a lot of people have about affordability is how much income do you actually need to buy a home in Canada? And you have a look at that for us coming up next right here on the Golfi Real Estate Show. Rob Golfi is here. I'm Steph Vivier. Stick around with us here on News Talk 610 CKTB.
Picking the wrong realtor, that'd be a big mistake. That cost me money.
We get it. We get that the right realtor makes all the difference. Compare and you'll see Golfi gets you the most money in the least amount of time.
Golfi gets it sold.
And welcome back to the Golfi Real Estate Show. I'm Steph Vivier. Rob Golfi is here from the #1 REMAX team in Canada, the Golfi team. And we've been talking a little bit about the stats, what is happening in our region and a little bit beyond as well. Rob always has the most up-to-date look at buying homes, selling homes. If you want to buy a home, the big question is, it's easy to look, right, Rob? We're all really good at looking, but it's the question of what is the number attached to the house I want and how much money do I need to make in order to be able to afford that? So you got a little look into actual affordability here in Canada.
Yeah, so there was an article in the paper. It said, how much income do you need to buy a home in Canada? A look at home affordability. And you know what? It's crazy. Now, this report came in and it just says Canada's spring housing market is missing in action, right? So that's what the latest March data from the Canada Real Estate Association reveals. Home sales plunges to a low not seen for the month since 2009. And I get it. Like I remember the 2009, but there was also a 2017 one. But people still have to move, right? You got people relocating because of business. You got relocating, separations, divorces. You got all sorts of reasons. People retiring, people passing away, all that kind of stuff. But so this report shows, like in Toronto, what your mortgage payment would be if you and I'm assuming this is based on 20% down purchase price. Your mortgage payment would be over $5,000 a month. That's like over $60,000 a year just to pay for your mortgage. And it was funny though. I was with an older couple, and the husband's a little bit falling ill, and the wife doesn't want to take care of a house anymore, and she's thinking of renting, and he's totally adamant of not doing that because he's old school European. He does not want to see money going to waste in rent, in his opinion. And she goes, well, we may want to rent. And he just got upset. And he's blind, right? He went blind in the last 7 years. And he's been a client since like 10 years now. And when we said, well, this is how much it would probably be for rent, and he's like, no way. He's just freaking out. And she's like, listen, honey, let us deal with it, all that kind of stuff. And so renting right now, it is cheaper than having a mortgage, but you're also paying down your mortgage. But in Toronto, your rent would probably an average of your mortgage would be probably about $5,422. Now, they came out with the stat in Hamilton. Now, Hamilton board, what I don't like about it is they add the Burlington with it, and they should do different things. When they do the stats, they should do Hamilton as one stat and Burlington, but they combine it, and that's what brings the average up. So over here they're saying the average price of a home in Hamilton is $812,600, which it's a lot less than that. That's with Burlington combined, which they don't define that. Now, your mortgage payment with the Hamilton Burlington combined is an average of $4,000 a month. And it's still high. Now, they didn't come up with any Niagara ones, but I'm just going to go run through these quickly on the different areas. Like Fredericton is $1,700 a month for a mortgage. Not bad. That's, that's good. Halifax, $2,800 a month. I know Halifax has grown massively in the last 5 years. It's crazy. Vancouver, $6,000. Your mortgage payment would be average a month. St. John's, $1,880. Calgary is $2,900. Now, Calgary has picked up quite a bit. A lot of people moved out there, and sometimes a lot of them moved back because they're not used to, different provinces. Montreal,
Well, it's cold out there, Rob. It is real cold.
It is cold. It is cold. It is cold. It's even colder in Montreal at $2,885 your average mortgage payment. Victoria, $4,500 average mortgage payment. Ottawa, $3,100 average mortgage payment. Edmonton, $2,200. Regina, $1,600. And Winnipeg, $1,951. So, I mean, Ontario, basically Ontario and Vancouver, they're the highest out there. And so if you live in those provinces, you're probably making more money anyway, but it is harder to save to buy a house. And, but yeah, like the affordability is, it's tough, and we're finding that a lot of people are, they're waiting longer and longer to buy a house. And it's tough, even with the interest rates dropping, it's still tough. We're finding a lot of people, a lot of families. I'm talking to the parents, and their kids are in their 30s, and he's still, trying to save money to buy a house, and they can't afford it. Even like they have the down payment, they can't afford it with the mortgage payment. They need somebody else to join them on that. So it's been pretty tough. It's a tough go out there.
It is tough. Rob, when folks come to you, are they aware of what they are able to afford? Or is that a conversation that you find yourself having more and more? Do people go get pre-qualified and they have an idea of what their budget might be? Or is that something they start with you?
No, you know what? They are savvy that way. The new generation, the millennials and Gen X, they do get pre-approved, because of all the information out there. If they haven't, then we pre-approve them. We'll get them in touch with a couple of mortgage people to make sure that they do pre-approve. A lot of times, like older generations, if they have a mortgage and they want to upgrade and go to a bigger house, they're not used to it, right? Especially they've been in their house. It's amazing how many people that have owned a house for so many years, and it's scary for them because it's the first time they're selling, because they bought the house when they got married. And that was it, and they're still there, and we're talking 50 years later, and but now we're finding, we tell them if they do have a mortgage, which hopefully if after 50 years you don't, we tell them, like, if you're going to go bigger or whatever, they should talk to a mortgage person, because I don't know their personal finances, and I try to stay away from that, because it's a private thing, and we just connect them with the right people, and then the mortgage person will say, yeah, they're good to go, all that kind of stuff, and then we try to find them a house. And sometimes a lot of the parents, they'll even get a line of credit to help their kids buy a house. So they'll take out $100,000 line of credit, use that as the down payment for them to buy the house, and the parents will just pay that off over time or whatever. It's part of their inheritance as time goes on.
Is that something that you advise? Like, is that a good idea, an investment? The parents are putting that $100,000 out. What do you think?
It depends how many siblings they have. I mean, if they do it for one child and there's two other kids, that can be an issue. There's a lot of things you have to be careful. If it's just an only child, you know what? I think they can do whatever they want, but but it's always good to be you always have to be careful of the other siblings, because if they find out the parents are lending money, it happens a lot. I'll tell you, you have no idea. I've seen so many cases where other siblings find out that the parents lent the one child, tens and tens of thousands of dollars, and then they find out, through other means of going through the banking and saying, hey, wait a minute, like all this money, where did it go? Like, why all of a sudden, the money went to their sibling and they didn't know about it. So, and it becomes a big issue, especially when the parents pass away, and then all of a sudden now you got issues with the estate, and then now there's a battle because of it. And I've seen it at least a couple big battles or more that parents have had problems. And I had one that the one parent gave money to the one child. There's like, I think 4 of them, and basically said, hey, this is part of you're not going to be in the will because I'm giving you all this money. And that sibling still went after the will. He still went after it. So it gets ugly. It gets really ugly. And sometimes it ties up the estate for years. And the lawyers win the battle mostly.
Yeah, that's one of those things that's unfortunate. A lot of times grief and money kind of all mingles together, and people lose it a little bit. So probably honesty is the best policy if you're going to do something like that in that case. Yes. Rod, there was just a federal election this week, and Prime Minister Mark Carney is now leading the country. Of course, he was the Prime Minister before the writ dropped, and he wins again, Liberal minority government. So, right. We could be going back to the polls sooner rather than later. What does this all mean for the world of real estate?
So for sellers, if you're thinking of selling next to 12 to 18 months, it might be your best window. Carney wants more supply and less speculation, and both of which could soften prices over time. I think prices won't soften for a while. Right now, the prices are softened, and I think if anybody's looking at buying, I think between now and the next year and a half is good. Good time. Now, for investors, Carney will likely tighten rules on speculators and second properties. Smart investors will shift to multi-units, affordable housing, or green retrofits before policy catches up. So that's for the investors. Now, for first-time buyers, relief could be on its way. Carney supports building more homes and may ease borrowing conditions. It won't fix everything overnight, but the tide could start to turn in your favor. And for builders and developers, expect federal green light for more supply, but also more strings, green standards, affordability targets, and zoning reform. Those who adapt early will thrive. Now, I know that GST and HST or something, they're going to be working on that, especially for the builders, so that the end user doesn't pay for that. Now, municipalities and landlords, Ottawa will likely pressure cities to build faster or risk losing funding. And for landlords, expect more regulations, especially around tenant rights and rent controls. So that's, I think, with Carney, I think, it's tough. I mean, I think a lot of people went to the polls this year looking for maybe a change. We're hoping Carney does it. He's not a stupid man. He's a very smart man. So we'll see what he does. I mean, he did say during his election that he's not Trudeau. He's Mark Carney, and so we'll see what the promises will bring.
Yeah, I guess it all remains to be seen. One of the issues that was really pointed at for our housing prices going sort of as high as they have, especially in areas like the GTA, have been foreign investment. So foreign investors, is Mark Carney friendly for them? Are they going to pull out, potentially seeing some prices drop? What do you see them doing? You know what?
I think he's just going to probably lay off on he's going to put a little bit of a restraint on that too much, because he really wants Canadians to buy, and he doesn't want them to be in competition. So his policies will prioritize Canadians, and a temporary cooling off from foreign capital, could give locals, breathing room. So I do feel that that's, what he's going to do. And I hope he does that, because I'll tell you, there's a lot of money out there around the world, and Canada was kind of a dumping ground where to put it. So when you get all this money coming in, and for first-time buyers, it's hard to compete against these guys. These guys were buying, 5 homes, 6 homes at a time. So they were taking the inventory away from the local buyer that, that was born and raised here, or even any immigrant, and it was tough. And but so now, that'll probably change a bit for sure.
Okay, cool. That's great. Now, the Liberals, didn't talk too much about this during the election campaign, but in the past, the previous leader of the federal Liberals took a lot of heat because of green policies. So, are those green policies still going to be around, and wouldn't that cost more to build homes?
It probably will cost more, but they said for homes that meet higher energy standards are worth more and are cheaper to run. Developers that shift now will have a market advantages. So they'll probably give them incentives and grants for them to build it. And if you own it, it's going to be a lot cheaper to live in it with these green homes. But I don't know, how much cheaper. Like they're not cheap to build. So I don't know how they're going to find the budget to figure that out. I think the most important thing is just build as many homes as they can, get people in them so that the housing prices can stabilize and stay where it's at.
All right, great information as always here on the Golfi Real Estate Show. Rob Golfi is with us today. Make sure you find out about more about his team at robgolfi.com. That's robgolfi.com. Rob's sticking around. I hope you do too, right here on News Talk 610 CKTB.
Are you worried about selling your home on time and for the most money? Hi, I'm Rob Golfi. Every year we invest millions of dollars in our advanced marketing system, ensuring your home is seen by tens of thousands of potential buyers. We don't just hope it sells, we make it sell.
And welcome back to the Golfi Real Estate Show. I'm Steph Vivier. Rob Golfi is with us with REMAX, the Golfi team. RobGolfi.com is where you can find out more about his team. And we've been talking a lot about affordability today, Rob. People love saving money, and we all have to in this climate. Like, have you seen the price of grapes lately? My goodness. So to save money, Canadian retirees have come up with a creative solution. They're actually living together, kind of like Golden Girls style.
Yes. I didn't think that was coming around, but you know what? We saw young people moving in together. And so that was a big thing when the housing cost, but it says that they're combating rising living costs and social isolations. Many Canadian retirees, especially single women, are turning to shared housing inspired by the Golden Girls model. Groups like, they co-own homes and live together, enjoying companionship, reduced expenses, and greater independence with custom designed homes and formal agreements in place. This trend is redefining how seniors age in place. So there's positive and negatives about this, like anything else. So I'll give you the positive. Financial savings for sure. Like a lot of seniors, maybe they're not bringing in as much money. They're not working. They're only depending on their pensions and their Canada pensions, old age pensions, and whatever other pensions they have. So that makes a big difference. Companionship and emotional support, especially beneficial during isolating times like the pandemic. Yeah, like if during the pandemic, if you were by yourself, you were by yourself. You were like, it's like you're under house arrest. So that could be very, very tough. Now, health benefits from staying socially active, reducing risks linked to isolation, greater independence, and control compared to traditional retirement homes. Shared responsibilities, including rotating, cooking, and maintaining the home, and peace of mind for families knowing someone is always around. Now, the negatives. And I think seniors are a little bit more outspoken than I think younger people because they've gone through life and they don't want to deal with any crap anymore. So potential for conflict, incompatibility with housemates. Yeah, that happens. Legal and financial complexity, requiring formal agreements and contingency planning. Sometimes, one has a little bit more money. Who knows if they can't afford it anymore? Limited privacy, even with private bathrooms and bedrooms, it could be tough. Challenges if someone's health declines. That's a big one, requiring sensitive transition planning. Risk of not finding a buyer. So let's say you're living with somebody and somebody, doesn't like it or passes away. Now, can you find somebody else, or you have to sell the place or move out of a rental or whatever, because you basically took that property or rental or house that you purchased or whatever based on both those incomes coming in and whatever equity that you had. So that can be a major concern. But looks like, but seniors are, they're doing it, and good for them. You know what I mean? Like. I think it's a great thing if they got a good sized house and they got their own privacy. I think it's an awesome thing.
It is. It is. There's a lot of health benefits to, the loneliness thing is really tough. I've always liked this idea, Rob. This is what I think, kind of it's a little bit of a cruel and unusual joke that men and women are attracted to one another, when it comes to actually living together. Like, your girlfriends, you want to watch the same shows, you want to talk about fashion, all those kinds of things. The guys can watch the sports. I always thought it would be kind of cool if you get a few couples together and you have like a compound, like a boy's house and a girl's house, and then you can intermingle when required.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? Because then you have things in common, but it can get pretty like, I think with couples, I think it can be tough. I think if they have their separate quarters, no problem. But maybe they have a common area. I don't know. But I think if it's senior ladies or senior men, I think it's like The Odd Couple. A lot of young people may not know, but if you remember The Odd Couple, you had one guy, he was clean, neat, and everything was proper and everything, and the other guy was a slob. I mean, if you walked in two different bedrooms, you would see two different things. So those are two men living together, sharing an apartment, and so they had their differences. And the thing is, we watched this show in the early age. You probably didn't see that show, Stephanie. You're probably going, what is he talking about? The Odd Couple.
I remember hearing about it, and then I feel like
they made a remake.
Old Men. Didn't they do that movie? I think it was kind of in that vein, right?
Yeah. So there's that aspect. Living with somebody that may not be as clean, living with somebody that may not be as tidy and just a slob. And then, you know what? And the dirtier and the more sloppy you are, that attracts bugs and rodents. So because, you got like some people, like I've walked into houses and there's clothes piled up in every corner of certain rooms, and you don't know what's crawling underneath those clothes. And they've been sitting there for like months and months and maybe longer than that. And so you have to know. So the person you're moving in with, you have to really know who they are. My theory, I always say, everybody is a nice person until you live with them or work with them. So you really get to know them. So everybody's nice. Everybody in this world is a nice person until you live with them and work with them. So maybe it's good just to maybe go on a vacation with them. So it's maybe a 1 or 2 week problem trial. And if you can't wait to get home and get away from this person, then do not move with this person. Do not move in. So do a trial as a vacation, 2-week vacation, and you'll find out if this is the right compatible roommate to have.
That's a really great way to do it. So, Rob, what about you? What kind of roommate are you? Are you the neat one? Are you the messy one? What would it be like to live with Rob Golfi?
So I'm the busy one. I am a little bit. I'm the guy that probably leaves the kitchen cabinet doors open. I go in, get what I want, and walk away. Sometimes I don't close it. Okay, I know. But
you can admit it.
But I'm the one that tidies up after 2-3 days. Like I'll just say, I got to clean this up, and then I'll tidy up. But I am messy in the short term, but. And also in the short term, I will tidy up. And if I see that it's, kind of messy, but if I have, let's say, a company or something like that, I'll race through the house and just get it all cleaned up and get it organized and all that kind of stuff. But I am a little messy. I like sometimes throwing my clothes on top of a chair, and there's there's about 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 layers of clothes on that chair. And then eventually I get to it and bring it down to nothing on that chair. So I build it up and bring it down, build it up, bring it down. But I don't let it get too out of control. I'm pretty good that way.
Yeah, I think there's difference between messy and dirty, right? So it's like you're busy, you do it all at once. That's kind of messy a little bit, but dirty's different. Dirty's the one you really don't want.
I'm not like that. No. I'm usually I'm a little messy sometimes, but not dirty. That's for sure.
You mentioned 2022. Of course, those were immense, crazy times when it came to the real estate market, things that people were selling their homes for and buying them for. And you've mentioned, we've lost a little bit of ground since then, and people are actually selling. And you're saying that you found that in Ontario, selling at a loss is actually commonplace now, 3 years after those crazy COVID era real estate prices.
It is. A lot of people are selling their houses less than what less than what their mortgage is, and they're going through it. So 3 years after the peak of COVID, the COVID era, real estate prices, a significant number of Ontario homeowners, especially those who bought in 2021 and 2022, are now selling their properties at a loss. According to TerraNet, 25% of the homes purchased in 2022 and sold in 2024 lost value, with a median loss of $45,000 in Ontario and $56,000 in the GTA. This is a sharp increase from the annual 2 to 4% of sales at a loss historically. Now, regions outside the GTA, such as Dufferin County and Muskoka, are hit hardest with a dramatic price drops and up to 30% of the sales at a loss in some areas. Many buyers during the pandemic, driven by fear of missing out and casino money, when they say casino money, meaning selling their property at a high price and getting great money from the GTA property sales, overpaid in the frenzied market. So those people that bought. Now, meanwhile, Toronto high-end market remains resilient with a notable rise in mortgage-free second property purchases. It's amazing how many people, there's a lot of money in Toronto. I think there's a lot of money everywhere, highlighting a growing divide between wealthy investors and struggling homeowners in 2020. 30% of new multiple property owners in Ontario bought without a mortgage. Isn't that crazy?
That's wild.
That is crazy. It's insane. Like I deal with hundreds of different people over the years, and it's amazing how wealthy people are. And you know what? There's a lot of wealth in Niagara that people would be surprised. And I remember I was reading some stat. This is years ago. We're talking like maybe over 10, 15 years ago. And somebody was telling me that the wealth in Niagara is like per capita is huge. It's big. Yeah. We don't see it.
Have that. Yeah. Well, so many, it was, at an event this week, Niagara Children's Center kicking off their Help Kids Shine campaign. And we have such amazing donors to those organizations. So you see it sometimes there, right? In the great work that's being done. But not as flashy maybe as we would think, wealthy people look a certain way or act a certain way. And that's kind of the beautiful thing about this area.
Yeah. I think most people that are wealthy, the older generation that have a lot of wealth, they live in the same house. Like I know people that are worth probably 20, 30, 40 million dollars, and they live in the same bungalow that they bought 40, 50 years ago. And they got all this money and they don't need the big house. They don't need it. And they drive, just a simple car, nothing fancy. They enjoy their life. There's no doubt about it. They enjoy their life, but there is a lot of wealth in Niagara. But the younger generations, they like to flaunt it. Like they love the Gucci's and the Louis Vuitton purses and shoes and clothes, and they're the ones that are spending their parents' money on expensive clothes, cars, and houses.
Yeah, they say YOLO. Let's do it now. Why wait to enjoy life, right?
That's it.
Yeah, Rob, you mentioned Dufferin County and Muskoka getting just hammered with this losing of, what they had purchased for in 2022. Why might that be?
Well, you know what? Because everybody was looking for an escape, and you really couldn't escape. You couldn't go on vacation. You couldn't do anything. So people were buying houses in the Muskokas, and those prices just skyrocketed. Now, a lot of them have a little bit of regret. Mortgages, some of them have big mortgages, and they can't afford it with the interest rates that they went. So they need to unload those houses and just get back to where they were, simple life. Everybody's life changed during COVID. People were leaving Toronto, going into Niagara. People were moving in different provinces because they could work out of home, and they would buy a place in Calgary or Vancouver. It was just, people were scattering everywhere when COVID hit, and it was just a way for them to live a different lifestyle and live more peaceful instead of living in the rat race of Toronto. And Toronto's still recovering from it. I mean, half the buildings are empty. Office buildings, and because a lot of people found that life is short. Money is good. People love making good money, but I mean, you can move to Niagara and still work for a Toronto firm and just show up at the Toronto office maybe once or twice a week. And that's not too bad in traffic. You're not doing it 5 days a week. But yeah, and that's what drove prices up in Niagara, drove prices up in Barrie, Ontario, Kitchener, Waterloo, Cambridge, Guelph, Hamilton. It just like people scattered everywhere. And it's not like in the prior to COVID, people usually stayed where they were. Like if you grew up in somewhere in Southern Ontario, you kind of stayed in Southern Ontario, working here. Like you grew up in Niagara, you worked in Toronto, no problem. You're an hour away from going back home and visiting your family. Now everybody's all over the place. They're moving to the East Coast, West Coast, Central Canada, and people are and that's a trajectory that changed Canadians, and same thing with Americans, I'm assuming.
Yeah, just a different world. You know, you mentioned Toronto, Rob, all those people leaving. Traffic's still nuts. What's going on with that?
Yeah, no kidding. They got to build it. I guess Doug Ford wants to build a huge tunnel to help the traffic. But I think, aren't they still supposed to build add the Skyway Bridge in St. Catharines, the Garden City Skyway Bridge? Aren't they supposed to start digging that soon? When's that happening?
Well, they've begun expropriating properties there already. I know the businesses have moved and things like that. So they are twinning that. They're looking at the tunnel as well. But, you know, I'm really looking to a private venture that we've talked about a lot here in Niagara. And I'm sure you've heard this one over the years. The hovercraft that's supposed to go from Niagara to Toronto. That one's going to be cool.
That'd be great. I can't wait till that happens. That'd be awesome.
You got it. And I know we will talk about it because it would affect real estate for sure. So you'll hear about it right here on the Golfi Real Estate Show. Well, Rob, this has been a ton of fun as always. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Rob Golfi, the Golfi team, the #1 real estate team in Canada, and they can be on your side with just a quick phone call, 905-641-0308, online at robgolfi.com. Thank you so much for listening. This is News Talk 610 CKTV.